people go into a podcast to hear a particular voice, to learn about a particular thing, to hear or experience a different opinion. I think it's one of the few groups of media where you can literally be you.
Podcast Junkies, episode 159. Hello. Is it me you're looking for? Because I wonder if you're podcasting, and that's about the extent of my Lionel Richie dedication. Welcome back. This is Podcast Junkies, and I'm Harry Duran. And if you're new to this show, then every week I try to do something a little bit different to mix it up, to be entertaining. It's 159 episodes, right? I got to do something. And regular listeners will hopefully have a smile on their face, because I'm just trying to ensure that they're continuing to enjoy this show, continuing to get value from what is provided here week over week. And I'm on the search. I'm on the prowl for engaging podcasters. I'm excited at this next wave of podcast conferences that are coming up. Podfest is going to be in Florida in February. And then a couple of other conferences. I'm going to Traffic and Conversion, which is more for the business side, in San Diego, and followed by Social Media Marketing World, which I happened to end up a recipient of a registration ticket, courtesy of a really good friend. So I'm really excited about that as well. I've never been to Social Media Marketing World. So if you are going to be there, please let me know, because I'm going to put the feelers out for folks. It's going to be at the end of this month. And then after that, I'm headed off to the Conscious Media Festival in Austin, Texas. So if you're going to be in any one of those areas, San Diego and Austin, please let me know. I'd love to meet up with you to the extent that we can make it happen. I'd be so happy to do that. If you missed last week's episode, then we had a really good conversation with Karen Yankovic, and we just have that same vibe of like that, sort of like that Northeast, East Coast vibe, and we just speak our mind. And we met at MapCon. She's the host of Good Girls Get Rich podcast, and we just sort of jammed out for a while. She's got so much insight, especially about LinkedIn. I know a lot of podcasters don't think a lot about their presence on LinkedIn, but one of the key things that you should be doing as a podcaster is when you've had enough episodes in the can and you've got enough under your belt, so to speak, then by all means, you should feel like you should be able to update to your LinkedIn profile that you are a host of said podcast, whatever your podcast is. So for mine, it says host of Podcast Junkies. So just something to keep in mind. I know I'm talking to a lot of podcasters here to think about those sorts of things. This week, we have the pleasure of speaking with someone else who I can jam out on when it comes to DJing. Regular listeners will know that I love doing that. And Mary Nichols, a.k.a. DJ Fusion, host of FuseBox Radio, is no exception. Really reminiscing about old school sort of stuff. The jury's still out, because, there's the episode that you're going to hear in a couple of seconds. But there's also the enhanced version that has a lot of music and samples of things that we mentioned that is still in the works. You'll hear me mention it and talk about it. And so make sure you let me know if you think that's something I should put some time into. I've got so many projects in motion right now. I can't even think about adding something like that, but it's really enticing because it's the type of stuff that really makes me happy. But in this specific interview, we talk with Mary about recounting the story of when she first stepped into a radio station. It was a while ago, which is why she's officially OG, old school podcaster. When you hear the dates, that she's been doing this for a while. We talk about the format of her show, our mutual love of DJing, as I mentioned, and the origin story, right? Every superhero has an origin story, and I ask her about hers as it relates to DJ Fusion. This episode is brought to you by Podbean. Did you know that with Podbean, you can create professional podcasts in minutes? It's a really simple platform to use, super user-friendly. They allow you to upload, publish, manage, promote your podcast, all with just the click of a mouse. They've got a great stats page, so you always know exactly how your podcasts are performing, and they give you in-depth view of your audience. You get to see episodes, and you get to see trends as well. It's really all the features you need for starting a podcast, website builder, unlimited storage and bandwidth, search engine optimized. You get your own domain and branding if you so desire, iTunes and Play Store support, and rock solid cloud hosting. They've got incredibly reasonable pricing plans starting at $9 a month for unlimited audio. And one of the good things about it that not a lot of people realize is for video podcasts, they also offer unlimited podcast hosting for video podcasts at a very reasonable $29 a month, which is something we're looking into for our clients as well. So look into those two options. If you get a chance, head on over to podbean.com/podcastjunkies. As I mentioned, I'm really excited about a lot of the opportunities that are coming up to reconnect with some of my old friends at some of these podcasting conferences. And one of my favorites, one of the ones that I've been to from the very beginning, is Podcast Movement. Podcast Movement is this July 23rd through the 26th, and it's going to be in Philadelphia. It's interesting because Philadelphia is the capital of I guess what you would call freedom because of the Liberty Bell. I've been there. I believe it has one of the oldest paved roads in America, which I think is fascinating. And so it's been an interesting journey with the Podcast Movement team. It's been so exciting to see what they've been doing over the past 4.5 years. This year in Philadelphia will be year number 5, and I'll be so happy to have my 5-year ribbon because I've been there from the beginning. And it's the first time I think I can say that about any conference that I've been to. And it's just, I love how it's turned into the world's largest gathering of new and veteran podcasters. 2,000 podcasters from around the world. It's going to be over 100 sessions. Even the expo hall itself features over 60 podcast service and equipment providers. So whatever you're in the market for, if it's podcasting related, you're going to find it there. I think it's going to be so great. Every year they keep outdoing themselves. I have so many fond memories of the conference as well. As jam-packed as these sessions are, some of these hallway conversations are priceless. I make it a point to print out and get printed, my t-shirts, because I want to make an impression. And now people are expecting that year over year. So it's something I have to keep delivering on. So head on over to podcastmovement.com and use coupon code podcastjunkies when you register to ensure you get your discount for this year's upcoming event. I hope to see you. I'll be in the bright yellow t-shirt. So please be on the lookout for me. So as always, lots to cover. Make sure you stay to the end of the episode where I reveal this week's retention hashtag. But for now, enjoy my conversation with Mary. So Mary Nichols, a.k.a. DJ Fusion, host of FuseBox Radio. Thank you so much for joining us on Podcast Junkies.
Hey, thank you for having me. We had our little technical difficulty getting on today, but we made it. We made it here.
Oh man, yeah, it was it's strange because there's so many moving parts, and this is the interesting thing about podcasters. Like even just the podcasting itself, if you were in a room recording into like a tape recorder, you still got to at some point communicate with other people in the outside world, and that's where so many moving parts I can hear you, you can't hear me. I can see you, you can't see me. And
exactly.
Then there's something wrong with the internet connection, and I can see how people would get discouraged.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can sit here like I literally just plugged in a few things. My internet's working. There should be no problems, and then that's of course when problems happen.
Yeah.
We won over. We done made it.
Yeah, we did. But you're no Luddite, and you're definitely not afraid of technology. You've been, if I have the numbers right, you've been in radio for 19 years.
Yep, 19 years. April 2018 will be 20, which feels crazy. And Podomatic made me feel old, sending me an email earlier this year saying we've been podcasting the show for 11. So
wow.
Yeah, it's one of those things that that time does stereotypically fly by.
Yeah. But
it's like, damn, time really has flown by. Like a big part of my life has been being a part of some type of independent media and blending it with technology. So that's pretty cool.
Can you tell me a story about the first time you stepped into a radio station or a radio booth?
Sure. When I was in college was when I actually got into all of this. There was a meeting. You know how they have like student organization meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
And my dorm was like literally across the street from the radio station. So I was like, that sounds interesting. Let me see what's going on. You walk in. And I had listened to different shows on there before, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. It's kind of free form style. It's still kind of that way right now. Shout out to Rutgers University Radio. And I was involved with the music department for a minute, which is pretty much for me, besides just loving music and being able to check stuff out to put into the radio show station's archives for DJs to use. It was also like, wow, I get free music too. Since I'm going to be 39 soon. This might age me for some of the, younger heads. It was like, wow, they get to send you CDs and, vinyl and other stuff, and I don't got to buy it, and we get extra copies, and oh my God, this is wonderful. And through the station, I met my mentor, shout out to Mr. Alvin Fair, and I was actually co-hosting on his show for a minute while I was getting able to learn the ropes in the station. And they ended up giving me a midnight to 2 a.m. slot. And I think they really didn't think I was going to stick with it too long. Yeah. But again, my dorm was literally across the street. So I could do my work, study, whatever else, do that show, come back and rest my head for whatever else I had to do, even if I had an early class. So I stuck with that throughout my college period and for a good amount of years afterwards when I lived in New Jersey. At the time, I'm currently in the DC metro area now. And around those times after a few years was when podcasting came about. One of my fellow DJs was talking about, hey, have you heard about this thing called podcasting? And for me, I was like, oh, it's another way for people to listen to the show beyond the New York, New Jersey metro area I was currently based in. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Okay, I've always been kind of a tech person. So I was like, I give it a go. Worst comes to worst, whatever. It'll be some other type of thing. And it's just continued on since. Luckily, I think technology advanced at a nice enough pace where we went from the era of especially doing like more quote unquote urban radio, hip hop based talk and music. It was like, oh, that's something for dorks. Nobody's going to listen to your thing through the computer. And there's 90 billion MP3 players out there at the time. And then, iPods were wild expensive at that period. And now it's just there like I have a cell phone. I can pull up your podcast. That's it. My mother, who is not a technological person, can pull up a podcast. Yeah. So pretty much anybody can do it now. And it's just been really awesome seeing how all this has grown on so many levels, how so many literal regular people can now have their voices heard when if you went through a mainstream outlet, after a while you either aged out or people like, we don't want to hear from this population, or they didn't even think about your population wanting to have a voice, whether it's, ethnic, cultural, political, anything in between. And now we have this thing where part of me sometimes does feel petty when they're like, oh, I got a podcast now. Do you know what podcast? I'm just there like, yeah, bro, I do. But it's cool. It's cool, Like it's really been awesome seeing all the different people who've been able to do their thing here. And as the title of your show is, literally become podcast junkies and use it to get by at work, traveling, whatever else. So.
Well, maybe we could share some stories of the craziest podcasts, but I stumbled on one recently through Twitter. It's a bird watchers podcast. She only has 7 episodes, but I was just so fascinated. I immediately, I was working, I put it on. She's a woman from the UK. She's got an English accent, and she talks about the birds, and then she plays a little clip of the birds chirping, and then it's so soothing. And I was like, wow, I just would never think a birdwatcher would have a podcast because you're like, oh, it's a visual thing. But she brings it home to you in a way that uses everything you can about the audio experience and makes you feel like it's something that she's so passionate about. So I asked her right away. I said, would you like to come on the show? We're going to come on in January. But literally, that's how it happens, just something that strikes your fancy. And I'm the radio station owner, right? I'm the executive producer. So I could be like, yeah, we're going to have her on the show.
Exactly. I think that's what makes all this type of stuff like really, really awesome, because I've run into like all kinds of niche podcasts in terms of history, people's opinions, being Black American. I think people only think we only have certain voices and views, and there's like a whole, diaspora of Black podcasts now that are awesome. And again, for somebody in my age range, you just like, okay, you either had to be really old or really young. Y'all folks in like your mid-20s to mid-40s, whatever. And it's like some of the biggest personalities who are doing their thing in this realm are people who are our age range, which I think is really, really awesome. While I've seen podcasts by kids where they make things, they'll just talk about school stuff or whatever else. And I'm just here like, wow, that is a thing. Like podcasting, at least as of right now, we definitely still got to fight for net neutrality and everything. Yeah. We all had the same distribution channels. Not too many groups of media have that. We all go through iTunes, Stitcher, all of that good stuff. And sometimes while you feel like you can just be talking to the ether and the wind, it goes to the world. Yeah. And somebody else in the world is like, yo, hey, I dig that song too. Or you talk about the Lady with the Bird Watchers podcast. Hey, I like this type of thing too. And it's something that might be in our sphere, or we just stumble onto it just like, oh, well, damn, okay, I'm going to check that out. That's cool,
It's so funny about you mentioned about your mom with podcasting. I had a similar moment a couple of weeks ago. I called home. They're back. I grew up in Yonkers, by the way, so I'm in Los Angeles now. Yeah.
And shout out to NY.
Yeah, shout out to Hot 97.
No doubt, no doubt. Another reason why I actually started doing my show, I was kind of tired of the mainstream radio at the time. I came to school during the bad boy era.
Yeah.
So after a while, I'm just there like, shout out to the people who do their thing. It's like, damn, I'm hearing the same 10 songs over and over again. And it's worse now, unfortunately, if you go to mainstream radio.
Oh, yeah.
Another wonderful thing about podcasts, you hear all different types of music.
Yeah.
And it was just there like, you know what? I like some of this stuff, but there's so much more that's cool out there. Like I was going to like SOBs, Lyric, and Poets Cafe, Ballroom, Hammerstein, all these different type of open mics and other type of stuff. I'm like, there's all these dope people who are doing music. I want to be able to play this amongst the other stuff.
Yeah.
And roll with it too. So yeah, you gone from one big area to another with LA to NY. That's cool.
And this common thread about the radio is interesting because now the radio is Spotify. And when I was talking to my dad, he said, he was telling me he was listening to a podcast. I was like, what? I was like, he's like 72. And he's like, yeah, it's on Spotify now. So I have it already. So I listen to music. So now I just listen to podcasts. I had like a moment there. I was like, wow, I hope podcasters are paying attention because I heard from Libsyn, the new stat is 4% of downloads are coming from Spotify now. And that's going to go up to like 10 because they sort of got in through the back door because people already had it in their back pocket. And like, with technology, you use what you already are familiar with. And so it's interesting. Like, this is possibly going to be a way to get out to this audience. It's maybe like the 50, 60, 70-year-olds, man. If they have something that their grandchild's already taught them how to use 2-3 years ago, they're going to find some stuff there.
Exactly. Like my mom always says, I'm her technology manual. I'm her living technology manual. Like I got you up to school and this, that, and the third. So make this thing work. And it's like, okay, so I'm that person. So it's that way with, smartphones and stuff too. And the Spotify thing is interesting because everybody knows Spotify. Yeah. Even if you don't use it, it's just an identifiable name. And so, hey, Spotify, you can put us onto your system whenever, but just hitting to y'all guys. But
check with Podomatic because I know Libsyn added it as a destination. So it depends on the podcast host, but now they've opened it up to everyone who's a Libsyn host. So I think all the podcast hosting companies should probably follow suit soon. So I would start nagging them if they haven't added that destination yet.
No doubt. But that is a good point that you brought up. Like the second you get to an easy access point for people, they're just going to check things out more. And I know through the past few years, there's been different companies that have been working with different car companies for you able to just get it straight through your radio.
Yeah.
So you don't got to like connect via Bluetooth or whatever. You just like press your button like if you're doing Sirius or something else.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a whole fascinating thing in terms of seeing how stuff's going to go. Like podcasting is so interesting because you almost have to have that little tech side if you want to grow your audience.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like, you had to be on the most thirsty thing in terms of like, I need 10 million followers. You want to be able to tell your followers it's easy to get to me.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, it wasn't as easy to tell people to do this stuff. Like, well, you can go here and get the RSS feed and put it in the iTunes. Like, what the hell does that mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Now you can pretty much be like, just search, or do you already got a podcasting app? Yeah, like for me, search for the FuseBox Radio. We should pop up on there. If you need more stuff, I'll give it to you. But this isn't really as hard anymore. So it's a wonderful equalizer on certain levels with media. When you see like on a site like, let's say Stitcher or something else that says related podcast, I'm always kind of blown to see what other people are listening to, or like other people listen to this.
Yeah.
And I'm here like, how the hell does somebody listen to like the BBC and NPR Alt Latino and another podcast here and there and all that, stumble onto like, I'm gonna check this FuseBox Radio guys out who are just literally two people who do this thing. And I'm not questioning it. I mean, I enjoy it, but it's just always a fascinating thing to me, see how certain things intersect. And I think that's going to be a big thing for podcast apps and other stuff too, is just trying to be able to recommend things to people and how they relate and intersect, whether it's music or talk or whatever else is in between. I'm curious to see what the Birdwatcher ladies related podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's so funny, Mary, because there's no one person with one, there's not a country music fan could like heavy metal. Like, I mean, hip hop head could be loving like classical opera. It's just like, there's this, we're snowflakes, right? Just like we all got different things and there's no one way to describe us all. So it's just fascinating to see that gets validated when you see people's tastes in music, because, I could listen. I could listen to a lot of different music depending on the mood, and for one or two songs. And I just love that all these different communities are crossing paths now.
Exactly. With Spotify, I'm curious to see how that's going to work. Like, are they going to end up looking at somebody's playlist and let's say there's a music podcast and be there like, hey, if you like what our algorithm put together,
maybe
you might want to check out what this actual person is doing and whatever else in between. Like, that's going to be fascinating to see how that goes and how that works.
Well, it's funny because we're going to show up as artists on Spotify.
Yeah, right. And that's a whole crazy other thing, but it's cool. It's definitely cool.
Yeah. It'll be cool. Yeah, it'll be your photo up there, and then it'll be Beyonce's and Mary J. Blige, and they'll be like, "Whoa, DJ Fusion, gotta check her out."
Hey, look, that'll be nice. Be there like, yes, all you Beyonce fans, because y'all like giving her money, check out this show.
That'd be cool.
Please, we do play her tracks. So please do.
So tell me a little bit about how you started with the format, because I know you mix it up. It's got music and talk, and how that progressed. If it started like that, or that was the idea you had, or it just kind of morphed into a couple of different variations over the years.
The format we had has more or less been the same with a little bit of tweaks here and there. Pretty much when I first started, I started out solo. I ended up meeting my friend and my partner, who's called the Black Hawk on the show, John, later on, and then he ended up joining the show. And essentially, it was just me, like, I like playing different types of music. I'm going to play this different type of music. I had actually just started DJing officially around that time. So I was just going all over the place, and then there was something on my mind. I'd just yammer about things, and then I had an extra person to do the same thing, and we just did a little bit more structuring as time went about with people who may not be familiar with the show. We usually spend about the first third talking about whatever else is there, and then we just go heavy into the music. So essentially, it's always been a mix of the serious and the silly, because that's what human beings are, you know. And sometimes, you know, I know people in particular can look at this particular wave of this year now with international news and national news and be there like, I don't want to hear about all this serious crap all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's that most of the time we aren't doing serious things all the time. So we can talk about anything from like what people are doing on a Netflix binge to the geopolitical part of this to whatever spiritual day to whatever happened with our families and anything in between. Like, we want to have it be remotely structured but still relaxed, you know. Like, it's what, like, we might at most maybe have a few bullet points if there's something that we feel that's really serious to talk about, but otherwise it's just us yammering. And for people who've listened, you know, we're both friends, we're really close and everything else. We always don't agree, so there's times that we can get into some heated conversations about stuff, but it's not like an artificial thing where they're like, hey, we're going to argue about this today. It's going to be like, okay, I'm bringing this up. Hey, wait a minute, I feel this way. Well, no, I'm going to tell you why I feel this way. And then, you know, just go from there. And with the music format, it's always been a mix of the independent and the mainstream. Like, you know, as I was saying earlier, when I started out and there was like, you know, the Hot 97s and Power 105s and stuff, I'm like, this is cool. And, you know, you're hearing some of the best, you know, mixed DJs and stuff at the time. After a while, and I think a lot of that was part of the FCC telecommunication, that when they started consolidating stations and stuff, you just started hearing the same stuff.
Clear Channel.
Over and over again. Yeah. Clear Channel. The current iHeart Radio, where it's like, that's, don't play games. I've been around too long, you know. Things just started getting kind of stale to me. And because of being around different types of music, and also, ironically, technology, that's when mp3.com started coming out later on, and other things. It was easier for artists to get music to you, whether it was a hard copy or not, or to communicate with DJs and radio show hosts and stuff like that. And I was starting to go from the regular music distribution channels here in the States to being able to have people send me stuff from all different types of countries and other things. And I've always been an eclectic music person. I think literally besides like maybe one or two genres I can't stand, I can pretty much give everything a go. It's just here like, hey, I'll go from this Jadakiss track to this Mos Def joint to something that somebody, when I was living in New Brunswick, New Jersey at the time, recorded around their way to a Ronnie Size track or whatever else is there. And, you know, just not keep it boring. And the first time I really felt I was succeeding was when I was actually getting people to call. I'm like, who the hell is calling at midnight to 2 a.m. in the morning? It ended up being people doing a night shift. Besides students and other stuff. And it was just there like, wow, so my weirdness is kind of helping somebody get through their day. And with the podcast, when that started getting more ground, I would be there like, you know, email us, tell us what you think about what we're talking about or the show or whatever. You start getting all these different types of emails. And it, you know, it bugs you out. And just the expansion of things has really been interesting with it since then. And a few years into things, we officially founded our company, which is a media-based entertainment company where it's like photography, DJing, writing, all that type of stuff.
Smart.
And in a way, that helped us out more because I could be there like, you want to check out some of the music style stuff that people can do or have the capacity to do or have done, check out the show. It's right here. Now, you might want to skip us talking sometimes, and that's fine. You know, after a while, I had to learn how to do time markers and things. But it was just there like, you can actually have a record of what you do and who you're about. Yeah. And for like music artists and other people in particular who want to make sure their stuff's getting played, because, you know, that's a part of their livelihood, that's part of their promotion. I could be there like, go to the site, we put up our playlist. You can pull up the show of the record and see what we're doing. We're not, you know, BSing you or anything. You know, it was helped out with a mutual type of exchange with people. Besides interviews and stuff, and that's cool. And especially with interviews, you can be there like, hey, I got interviewed here. You can listen to the interview. You can see me as more than somebody who makes these songs. You can see me as more of a multifaceted person.
Yeah.
And creative. And the podcast has taken us to a lot of different places. We've done a lot of music festivals because of it, speaking at different events and panels before there were podcast conferences. Ironically, now podcast conferences, which is a whole other thing I find to be insanely cool that exists right now. That's how we met and everything.
Shout out to Matt Brown.
No doubt, no doubt. And that's pretty much been a part of the journey. You just interviewed so many different types of folks. Yeah. Some people when they were on the come up with their careers or comebacks.
That's cool.
We've done like third party political candidates the past few years, which has been fascinating. Particularly last election cycle, that was some of our most heated feedback we ever gotten, which blew my mind. Well, I'm just here like, it's just an educational thing, guys. We're not even saying, well, we said to not vote for one particular person, but otherwise it was just there like, we just want you to know what this thing is. And it's there like, how dare you not sweat Bernie or Hillary? And it's like, you know, I don't know if I can curse on here and stuff.
Yeah, of course,
you know,
man.
Oh, okay. It was just like, what the fuck is going on? Go to your email box. Like, I mean, I guess it's good because people are listening, but y'all are really mad.
Well, you know what's so great about that, Mary, is that it's like you have this what I call your online stage, right? And it's you decide who you want to bring through, and you decide what the topics are and how deep and how controversial you want to be. And at the end of the day, you're going to repel the people who don't like it. But and that's exactly what you want, because then the people who stay are more like raving fans, and they're gonna go to bat for you, and they'll be like, no, you can't say that. That's my girl. Like I trust her. I've been with her for like 10 years, and just kind of like things like that start to happen, and you get a little tribe, right? And I'm sure like you've been doing this enough. You've got your super fans as well.
We do, and it's really encouraging because you do have some days you're like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I up in here? You know, you have your regular life. Ironically, you have your regular life beyond the mic. Yeah. And, you know, you might just be like, I'm having the worst day. People at 9 to 5 are getting on my nerves. This person says something to me that messed me up. Then you check out an email. You get a Facebook comment or a Twitter comment or something like that. Where they're like, wow, okay, this is cool. I'm not totally insane. And you're going to have like the pushback and other stuff, but in a weird way, for me, with my personality type, it's kind of encouraging because it's like, you're still listening though.
Yes, exactly.
You still check yourself out. It's not like we're trying to purposely do it. I mean, you know, there's always shock jock type of people and everything. That's your steez. That's fine. Yep. But I'll just be here like, dang, you really got into it. But I'm just like, damn, but you listen to at least this much of the show to not just get into it, but to make this comment about it or do whatever else. And again, what's cool with the podcasting scenario was I think it's growing exponentially, I think, right now, but there's still enough of a community within folks who might talk about things that are similar with what you do. Yeah. And sometimes you could be like, yo, you're totally off the path of what I do, but we found each other through this medium.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you can be like, yo, this is a cool person. Like, shout out to Joe Pardo of Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. I'm sitting here like, we probably would have never met if it wasn't for podcasting.
That's true. That's so true.
But he's like a really cool dude, an individual. And, you know, I end up finding out that he DJ'd back in the day because of some other stuff, and then everything that's blended in.
That's the moment where I give you this peak of the 1200s in the back.
See, there we go. That's right. That's downstairs around my way right now. But
yeah. So naturally when Joe and I connected and we started talking about DJing, I was like, oh wow, because I grew up like I DJ'd my high school dance. I learned how to beat match vinyl, vinyl junkie, and yeah, I'm grew up with house music, man. Just like, cause obviously old school hip hop, but for DJing, man, it was like house was my jam.
Oh yeah, see, that was me when I was in college. Like I had always liked different types of music. I had relatives who did DJing early back in the day.
Yep, me too.
When I started working for Res Life about 2-3 years in school, I'm like, yeah, I got my own room. This is dope. And I was making a little bit of extra money, so I ended up getting like the most bootleg set of belt drive turntables, little bootleg 2-channel Gemini mixer. I know people saw them joints back in the day up in Source Mag and all of that. And that's when I was getting free music through the station and doing the show.
Did you go up in the Bronx to get that?
Nah, actually, I think I had bought that from somebody in New Jersey, actually. And I mean, I spent plenty of time hopping on the PATH train and Jersey Transit to, like, Fat Beats, Kim's, just a whole bunch of different record spots, like St. Mark's. Place was like the Strip for all of that type of stuff. And I was also getting music through the station. Because after a while, it was just there like, oh wow. And that's what made me, ironically, that was one of those interesting that made me know I was making it. When you actually started getting stuff from the big labels.
Yeah.
Where it was like, yo, I'm getting music from Tommy Boy now. Raucous, Priority, Columbia, all of that.
Yeah.
And I would have my parents visit me, and they would be here like, you're spending all your work study money and this other stuff on these damn records. I'm like, I'm actually getting the majority of this for free.
Yeah.
I am paying for some stuff, Which I'm like, that helped me with school, so that's fine. But it was just, they're like, yeah, I'm actually getting the majority of stuff for free, because they're seeing like crates lined up on my wall of records and stuff. But yeah, essentially, it's I lost my track after I got all excited about my DJ.
No, it's just funny because it's like when that idea of when I saw it was my cousin and a good friend, and I saw how they were controlling the party, and I was just like, wait a minute, this person is determining how much fun all these people have by their music selection. And I was like, I think I want to learn how to do that. And then, that moment that you do it, and you beat match, or that moment when that the track you're about to play is just going to like crush it. It's like it's just a different feeling. And so that naturally translated, to me, to podcasting.
Oh, no doubt. Like it's different mini high. Like, I'll talk about the house stuff, party, stuff. A lot of my friends to this day are from northern New Jersey. So they are like essentially like the younger brothers and sisters of like the folks listening like the Deep House and Deep Club type of stuff. Like, like pretty much like Zanzibar babies and all of that. So
that's funny.
And that was the stuff that was played at a bunch of the parties I had went to and attended, on top of, the hip hop and stuff like that. And I'm one of those people, I have always been that geek where I will like read the back credits of music and stuff. So when I started learning different house tracks and things, I started buying more house on that level. So I'm just here like, oh, who is Louis Vega? Who's Masters at Work?
Oh, yeah, very cool.
Man, King Street Records has a lot of stuff I'm really feeling right now. You know what I mean? And there's all the different, wonderful house cats who are under that. And that's how I started buying more stuff, because that was also area, people, God, all this stuff doesn't exist anymore. That feels crazy. Like mixtapes.
Yeah, mixtapes.
Like people would just be selling mixtapes, like literally on the streets of Newark and other spots like that. That would be running around to, and of course the city. And, sometimes they would have the artist and the name. Sometimes they would just have the title. You'd just be there like, damn, I like this song, but who the hell doesn't? Because, some of those people just like one-off artists.
Yeah, totally. One-hit wonders, yeah.
Exactly. So it was like doing a lot of digging with that and finding out, oh, who's a Green Velvet? Oh, there's this label called Casual Records and
Cashmere,
all this other cool stuff. And then just, getting in heavy to things. And in an interesting way with stuff, when I started doing that, I started reaching out to those labels. They're like, you actually want to play our stuff on the radio and podcast? I'm like, yes, I do. Please send it over if you want to send it. I will grab up all of it.
Nice.
Like Strictly Rhythm and all them people. Yes, send it through. I still like rock stuff like that now.
Very cool.
I actually did a wedding about a year ago, and it was this lovely British couple, and they were just there like, hey, do you know about these particular artists? Can you play this at the wedding? I'm just here like, are you crazy? I'm gonna get paid to play stuff I like to play at home. See, this is why you do a podcast. That's what's up. Be like, I'll send over these 3 links immediately so you know what's going on. It's like, yes, I'll hire. It's like, see.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's so funny. I was, I was thinking, I got to throw maybe at least some links to some YouTube videos for some of these tracks in the show notes. So, some of the listeners probably getting lost already with all these references. But Zanzibar was a club in New Jersey, right? Isn't Zanzibar New Jersey? Back in the 90s. So yeah, it's just interesting, the journey and the idea. And I was thinking about it from a mixing perspective. Like, as you were saying that, the other part of me was like, what if I, when release this episode, when she mentions those tracks, fade out and then fade in and play the song a little bit? And then
okay.
I did that like years ago when I was editing my own stuff, but I was like, I can't do that anymore. But now every once in a while I have a conversation. I'm like, it would make it, maybe, that I could do like a special bonus version that has the produced with the music in it. That's cool. I could do something like that.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
That'd be dope. Yeah.
So, we'll think about that. Yeah, it's so much fun reminiscing with stuff like that because those certainly brings back good memories.
Oh yeah, definitely. Lot of good memories, a lot of good traveling around, a lot of my hands getting dusty, digging for stuff, or being there like, this label looks interesting. They'd be like, holy crap, I've been looking for that song forever. Or you have the opposite effect where you go to a record store, just they're like, this might be the song. You just they're like, why is this 12-inch cost $40? Really? Okay.
Yeah, totally. That's an expensive habit. So, I want to go back a little bit. You talked, I think one of the recent episodes you were reviewing Justice League. So I know you're a fan of comics. And so, so can you tell me the origin story of DJ Fusion?
The origin story of me, that's wild.
As DJ Fusion though.
Oh, origin story of me as DJ Fusion. Basically, after going through mentoring and other stuff with the station, when I was able to get approved as an official DJ at WRSU and getting offered a show, you sit down and you start thinking about, well, you got to have a title and you got to have a name and all that type of stuff. And I am not funk flexy at all. I'm not one of those people who can just yell on the mic all day. If that's your personality type, I'm not dissing you. It's just not me. I feel like a moron if I do stuff like that. Essentially, I was sitting back and I was like, what would reflect the type of show I want to do? Because it would be a mix of all different types of stuff. And I was like, you pull up the old dictionary, look up different things, like, oh, fusion, that sounds cool. And DJ Fusion sounds smooth. Yeah. And a FuseBox is something that, brings energy to a crowd and audience. So it essentially became that. And it's stuck ever since. That's pretty much the long and short of it.
Very cool. Did the FuseBox come after you had Fusion?
So around the same time, approximately, when I got the name part and everything, and I had the backbone to be like, okay, I'm going to try to go out and do other events and stuff on top of doing the show. And that's why everything's pretty much had like a nice synergy ever since I really started doing this stuff.
That's a good story. We should have a comic book made out of that.
Just be like, a short black woman gets 2 turntables and a mic and becomes an awesome podcaster and DJ flying through the air. That'll work.
I like that. We need some...
I'm about to say, if Image Comics wants to do that for me, I'll be geeked out.
We'll put it on.
Or if Luke Cage wants to put me into a series, I'll be down for a quick cameo to wave and say hi.
Yeah, you could be his Luke Cage's DJ.
They had a few episodes with him, and they had a few issues with him, and Iron Fist.
Yeah,
like busting into a radio station in Harlem. I'll take that role right quick.
Yeah, you never know.
If y'all put that to the Netflix series, I am available. Completely. I'm unionized. I got a card. We can do it. So.
You mentioned earlier you were always a tech person, but at some point you were drawn to it, or you were shown it, or you were taught it. Which was it for you?
It's a mix. I actually went to a science and technology high school.
Okay.
So shout out to Oxon Hill High and everything around Southern Maryland. And I actually went to Rutgers originally to major in engineering, and then I was like, that's not working for me. But I've always had that thing about, researching stuff and using my hands to build and create different things and all of that. And around the time I ended up changing my major to one of my other major interests in life, which is history and all that, I ended up majoring in American studies, was when I guess fate, the universe, whatever people want to put it into, got me involved with the station, where I was there like, I still got to learn all this stuff because they had a mix of old and new equipment there. Mm-hmm. So you would have God, again, I feel so old talking about this. You would have mini disc and stuff.
Yeah.
And you would have like the old school carts up in the mix. You would have some up to date turntables. You would have them super old turntables. You had to flip the little thing on. Yeah. And part of that tech learning was just being there like, damn, how am I going to put all this together to make a cohesive mix if I don't feel like bringing over my own stuff or somebody else bringing their own stuff in? Or how is it going to work for them to plug in their stuff and still have a record of what we've done? Because even back in the day, I always wanted to be able to record the show and have something just so I can be here like, here's the show I have for this week. It was cool. You know, either I listened to the mix or partially on a critique, partially on an enjoying basis just to see if I can improve and get better. And
do you have those? Do you have those?
Older shows?
Yeah.
I do. I think the earliest I have is like maybe mid 2000s. I think I have on CD or DVD somewhere. I'm eventually going to try to just start throwing those here and there in the podcast stream so people can see the growth on multiple levels of what we've done. And there are some commentaries I'm just like, wow, I was young and stupid. Okay. I'm better now. That's cool.
If you had an old one that you liked a lot, I'd love to like put a couple minutes of it at the end of this episode. Just kind of, I've been playing around with that a little bit, playing the guests a snippet from one of their episodes at the end of this one. So then you automatically can get a flavor. So that'd be cool if we can get one of those. We can throw it at the end of this.
Okay, I had to try to dig around and flip on that and see. And then I guess podcasting in a way became part of the archive. Like I always save my shows regardless.
Okay.
But I think on my hard drive we at least go back to about 10 to 12 years.
Nice.
Of shows. Yeah, god dang. Yeah. 10 to 12 years of shows on that. Then I think I have some original Rutgers U radio one. So I think that's gonna probably be at least 03-ish, 04-ish. Wow. I have some stuff. So like it's been a journey. It's been kind of wild. It's been kind of wild.
The other thing I wanted to ask is when it's an interesting time because when you're a DJ, you play your music and you're like, oh, I'm just the entertainer. Like, like if you imagine us at like throwing a party, we would never be throwing a house party and then be getting on the mic and be like, yo, man, Trump is crazy, man. So anyway, back to this track.
Yeah, pretty much.
We couldn't, like that would be weird, right? So, but now we could be like throwing on the jam and then the break would come and you'd be like, yo, what's going on with Trump? And it's kind of like with the format you had. So what I want to know is like, when was the first time you started, the DJ became an opportunity for you to inject your opinion?
I think it was just literally through doing the show. Like, I had more of an interjection thing when I first began. Yeah. And then I would just there like, let's just go on ahead and, because, sometimes so much just happens at one time. Yeah. It'll be like, hey, let's just try to find a way to semi-structure it a bit. So sometimes you listen to podcasts or take out different type of entertainment because you want to have a little bit of an escape. So part of me is like, okay, we have this beginning part, we're talking, we can go completely off or whatever. And if you just want to be there like, I can't deal with that right now, you can go to the music and enjoy. That's why at the end of each of our commentary part, we're just there like, hey, you don't like or agree with anything that we say, that's cool. If it sparked your mind to get to another conversation, we've done our job as independent and black media, now we're into the music and people can get just like right into that. Or if they want to hear both and be there like, yeah, I feel that way too, or I don't feel that way too, but I just had to get that out. And it's like, okay, now I can kind of cool down and just listen to some jams for a moment,
The quiet storm.
Exactly. Like you'd be like, okay, yeah, I got all that out. Yeah, I feel that way too. Now I can just jam, mellow out, and go on to the next part of my day,
But do you remember when, because were you doing this at the radio station as well? Like you would play and then you'd be like, talk about stuff that was current?
Yeah, I was always doing it. I was a little more music based at the beginning with just interjections here and there. Yeah. And then, the world became the world essentially and my adulthood became my adulthood. I graduated right around, a few months before 9/11 and all of that. Katrina happened, all other types of stuff. And one of the things that we did get with feedback was, hey, it was cool that y'all talked about this particular thing for a moment, whether it was, straight up local, like something happening in the city limits or the county, statewide, local, international, etc. And it was like, well, we should maybe incorporate that a little more into the show at large because we're not really getting bad feedback from this. We're a little surprised. I'm like, somebody's actually paying attention to that part too, besides being like, yeah, shut up, just play,
Yeah.
this new album I heard, or whatever else, or get so-and-so on to freestyle, because we had more of that back in the day.
Oh, cool. And
whatever else. Yeah, we had a lot of cats come through for that, from local folks to, when we had some guests on, like R.A. the Rugged Man back in the day, various Wu-Tang folks, etc. You had that little segment. And now people don't freestyle too much anymore, and I really don't want to be bothered by hearing mediocre freestyles. I think part of that's me being a little older now. I'm just here like...
Someone should start a podcast called Mediocre Freestyle.
I don't know who want to listen to that many mediocre freestyles for a set. I mean, if they want to do it, y'all go for it. There's plenty of rounds.
My first freestyle. That'll be good.
Oh, wow. I think some MCs might get their feelings hurt. I had to look out for the MCs. I'm like, you all had to hone your craft for it. Be like, this is my first freestyle. Y'all suck. Be like, well, damn. Okay.
That's it. Yeah, career over.
I'll throw away my tablet and call it a day. All right.
How do you handle the copyright issues? Because I'm sure that's a big question. Like you say, you play a lot of music.
Well, with the show, when we have stuff in syndication, like luckily a lot of the internet stations and FM stations already have their clearances.
Okay.
Together with that.
Yes.
So that's not had to be anything we've had to worry about. That was one thing we always wanted to look at, because we wanted to be on a legitimate platform as possible with everything.
Yeah.
And right now, luckily, I mean, unless you're literally stealing tracks or something, most folks want to have their stuff played.
Yeah.
They want to have it, out there and about. And a lot of these companies that used to start doing college radio promotions have segued into podcast promotion. So, in other words, these folks are going to the DJ to have these type of outlets because they're like, you have our permission.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like you're just like grabbing up something and it's just they're like, man, don't do that. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. And I need my whatever cents to the dollar and all of that type of stuff. Now, when podcasting gets more popular, might that change?
Yeah.
It may. And, folks will have to go ahead and deal with that accordingly. Like we stream through Mixcloud, but Mixcloud luckily has a thing with all of the different labels.
Okay.
So, and also Mixcloud, they stream, but they don't download. But even those folks who are getting their stuff played via stream are getting credit and pay and stuff like that. So we try our best to, get into balance with all of that and keep things as pod safe as possible. I guess that's a terminology a lot of people use with things. But yeah, I mean, unless you're probably literally stealing something right now, doing a music podcast should be fine. And, if somebody really catches feelings, we can, take care of stuff. But we've never dealt with that all the time. We've been very lucky on that end.
I think a lot of it has to do with if you're providing commentary on the track, then you kind of get there's a little space. Like if you were reviewing a movie and you played a clip and you're like, well, let's talk about the clip. So I think if you're talking about it, it may fall in that area. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, like essentially, I think one of the things that has been cool about the vast majority of the music industry is that people just are like, I want to have my stuff be heard. So like with certain parts of radio for a long time, people weren't getting any money for their plays, or they were getting at most, teeny tiny royalties. Most of the music industry, I think, is pretty used to using audio formats in a particular way.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's like how you see like Apple Music and stuff, now how they have their stations and their shows and all of that. The big thing is everybody wants their credit, and if you are on a place that is supposed to be paying, have them pay. So for parts of internet radio, unfortunately, since Life 365 fell down and all that type of stuff, there's only so much of internet radio that can, keep it legit if you have a net radio station. But with podcasting and these outlets that are servicing podcasters and other types of people, very rarely you're dealing with any problems from the indies to the majors. Plus, one of the things is you're sending music here. You know what a podcast is. You know what's up here. I am curious to see how it's going to work with Spotify.
Yeah, I think
that's going to be fascinating. If they get paid, cool. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. I'm assuming it's going to be that way.
I don't think they have the ability to track it. They're actually, now that you mention it, there actually is a box you got to check off that all your episodes are pod safe. So I think they may, and then however they define that. Just something to keep an eye on.
And that's going to be a curious thing, but I mean, a lot of it is so many people are giving stuff to podcasters to play on their podcast.
I'm sure.
It's like, well, damn, if this ain't pod safe, y'all better get together because we're trying to help you out. We aren't trying to get caught up in the wrong paperwork.
Yeah.
But so far, Yeah, that hasn't really been an issue. I think the only thing is like if you're with maybe a SoundCloud or somebody, because SoundCloud's still going through all that licensing stuff. Like there's times we put up streams of the show and it'll be like the most random song. And it'll be here like, you played this Kanye West thing.
Wow, okay.
Are you sure about it? It's like, wait a second. What? I have a whole list of stuff here. The label gave me this to play.
No, but
what is this? But that's also the computer checking out different stuff and it's algorithm to do. Yep. So it's going to be interesting what's going on. Like I know a bunch of people who left SoundCloud because of that issue, where they're like, I don't know if my show's going to stay up or not.
Yeah, probably not.
If I do a music show, and some people who even do like commentary on movies and things, like you just mentioned, like they'll play a brief clip. You played this clip from Batman versus Superman while you were talking, and it's that they're just like, you know what, screw this, I'm going to Libsyn or Podomatic or whomever else is there. Like I think they're gonna have to, I think more people are gonna have to start refining those algorithms more, because it's gonna be dangerous for some of these places if people don't feel that where their podcast is, it could be stable. Yeah. And all of that.
Well, I think in the reverse, I think a lot of
then I want people to get paid too.
Yeah. So I think the label is gonna be probably clamping down on that more rather than less. That's the way it's been in the past. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about where you see this show going? You know, you've been such a part of it for so long that you've literally seen like the inception of it, the start of podcasting, and even with the experiences as that you've had in radio. So I'm just curious on your perspective, having been in this game for so long.
Where do I see the show going?
Yeah.
As of now, we've been talking about actually doing some expansion spinoff podcast.
Okay.
Something that are a little more talk heavy and stuff, or almost micro podcast on certain things that we do. The network thing I've noticed has become really big right now with people. And I would like to add on some folks within our network. We're still refining things and all of that. Besides that, I mean, us just going as long as, you know, the wheels fall off, essentially, whatever format is there.
It seems to be opening up a lot of opportunities, because you were, we saw you speak, and then I also, you mentioned on one of the episodes that you were moderating panels. So it seems to have opened up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. Like, in a weird way, a podcast can almost be like a part of your like life resume.
Yeah, totally.
And stuff with what you're doing. Like, you can talk all day about, I do A, B, C, D, or E, and you know, like we see LinkedIn accounts, you know, you're the CEO of whatever, and you've spoken at 1,000 places and all of this type of stuff, which you could do, which is awesome, you know, but you can almost be there like, it's not just me using like the most hip words of the day and catchphrases that grab you. I could be there like, I spoke at a panel, and long as I don't remember that I didn't, bring my recorder over, I can be there like, I spoke over here. Here's where I spoke at. You know, I did this panel. It was cool. Here's the audio from the panel. Sometimes we DJ'd at an event. You know, here's the mix from the event. It's one of those things, I think, that only is an extra like bit of frosting on your cake of accomplishment that you can actually show what you're doing. You know, like it's like now you see a lot of business people. They got their podcast where it's like almost like, I'm gonna give you a little taste of this business advice, and I can go over here and do that. The fact that there's podcast about podcasting still blows my mind to a degree. But I understand, like this one here, like School of Podcasting. Yeah, School of Podcasting is great. All that stuff. I listened to them way back in the day. Nothing that made me feel old. And at the last podcast conference, I was like, holy crap! I'm getting props from Dave Jackson, School for Podcasting. And somebody else will be there like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't understand. He's the biggest podcaster in the freaking world who still advises people on podcasting, and he's a cool guy and whatever. When I listened to that, when I was like, didn't know what a podcast was besides me being a nerd and learning RSS feeds and HTML. Like, really awesome dude, you know?
And that's a community, right?
And it's a community. And like just seeing other folks build up and, being able to help and, give support to other people who are, thinking about podcasting and doing their thing, and seeing how they've expanded into other stuff they've done. I honestly think that's going to be another big part right there. Like, I really would like to get more people into podcasting
Yeah.
and all of that, and get their voices out there. Independent media is more important and vital than ever right now, when we're in an age where a lot of corporations are literally just buying up every other company into some mass conglomerate type of situation. And this, I think, is one of the few lanes left where you can be relatively successful, whether you're going for it for an audience, for money, or just to express yourself. Because that's a really big thing about podcasting. Like, you can be there like, I'm going to be just like, I'm going to be just like Tim Ferriss, just as an example, somebody thing.
Yeah.
And it's just there like, somebody might like that, but it also just there like, yeah, I got Tim Ferriss. People go to a podcast to hear a particular voice, to learn about a particular thing, to hear or experience a different opinion. I think it's one of the few groups of media where you can literally be you.
Yeah.
And for some reason, somebody will sit down and listen to it.
Be your own Tim Ferriss.
Exactly. And tell folks about it. Like, if you want to be the stereotypical human brand, you can do that.
Yeah.
If you just want to be there like, hey, I'm me, I'm talking on this mic for a minute, or I have this particular skill, I can sing, I can talk about this, I'm really good about having conversations or whatever else. You have a realm for your voice and for the literal millions and billions of other people who might feel lonely somewhere, who might not have the experiences that we've had.
Yeah, totally.
Or they might have had those experiences, but because they're in a different place, they're just here like, wow, I'm the weirdo in the mix of all of these people. I can look at this podcast and be like, wait a minute. Yeah, I felt that way before. I went through this experience, good or bad, before. I want to learn about this thing too, all of that. Like, I've met so many people through doing the podcast. And that in itself been mind blowing, because I'm like, to me, I'm just there like, I'm just a short black chick, man, who just talks on the mic and really likes music. And you can have people rolling up on you just there like, hey, I've listened to your show. I followed, your Facebook page or your Twitter or whatever else. And now I can see your person like DC Podfest. I actually met a few people through a few fellow black podcasters through that. Well, I'm just there like, we've been following each other on Twitter and Facebook for years.
That's so nice.
And just talking. And like, I was literally doing that diversity panel there.
Yeah.
And, shouts out to Aaron Freeman of Unreasonable Fridays. And he literally hit me on my page with, I took a little quick Instagram picture, like, I'm on my way to, moderate this panel. He's like, hey, yeah, I'm already here. I'm just like, but you live in California. It's like, yeah, my job had me come down here to do this other type of stuff. And here we go. And it's like, wow. So we actually get to meet and chop it up, like podcasting. I think podcasting is really a door opener, if that's the thing that you really, really want to do. Like, it's not as hard to get into it anymore on a technological level. I mean, you still got stuff to do. Like, we went through our end of stuff and we've been doing it for a while. But, like, it's so many openings to even just get started or just, test the waters. Like, you don't have to pay, like, an absurd amount of money monthly to get started. You get a USB mic, if a music person, whatever, you might, get like a side mixer to put stuff in, do whatever else. You upload it, promote, give a basic explanation, see what happens. You can always develop with it. You're not stuck in that form. I think sometimes people think with podcasting, like, if you start off shock jockey, you always got to be shock jockey. No, you don't. You can flip the script. I know, various people who have done that. And if you've done this for a while, sometimes you're going to be in the mood to change because you yourself are changing. And I think one of the coolest things is when you go through that type of stuff, there's still people who have been around and they want to stay around. That's awesome, as well as the new people who are coming into the mix, because sometimes when you go through your growth process, you're kind of caught up in your own life or whatever. You don't realize that other people are going through that too. And they'll be like, wow, y'all are talking about this thing and that thing. And sometimes, if you talk about that with somebody else, you might be going through something. Sometimes people just, they're like, I don't want to hear you whining about it today,
Exactly.
And you're just like, I'm not whining, I'm going through something. It's something they might just like, throw a sentence or two out about it into the air because you're doing, your show. And then you can have people who hit you back up. Like, I know folks who are going through various illnesses and things while they're doing their show. And they just talk about it very candidly, and they've connected with people,
of course,
on that level and stuff. And it's almost like an extra bit of freedom through a microphone, and other people who, again, you might not ever expect to intersect with in life can identify with you too and do things. And yeah, if you're a business-minded person, you can do cool stuff with it, but it doesn't have to be about it. I think sometimes some folks are just, they're like, I just want to get up here, get 10 million downloads. Then I'm going to get a whole bunch of money doing live podcasts. I'm like, even some of the best podcasters in the world don't have that.
Slow down. Slow down.
Like slow it down. Start it off first. I mean, if it happens, God bless you.
Record your first 5 episodes, then we'll talk,
Yeah. Like record your first few episodes, listen, if you still dig what you're doing, tweak it out, all of that good stuff. And, enjoy the platform that we have. I mean, at least right now, even with the net neutrality nonsense that just happened via the FCC, we still have probably the most equal platform ever of self-expression.
Totally.
And this is like internationally, and hopefully we can maintain it longer than, the past forms of mass media communication like radio, TV, and so forth. We can still be here like, hey, we'll just randomly say Podbean. Hey, Podbean, here's my bit of money.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I get onto iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, all that good stuff?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to record, upload. I'm on the same plane as an NBC or CBS.
Yeah, totally.
Or BBC. And that in itself is really wild, but it's awesome. We need to be able to embrace that type of thing. Like, there's serious issues that usually sometimes, like now, you have more people who with certain serious issue will go to a podcast first.
Oh, yeah. That's where they get their news from.
Exactly. Like everything will build up to the point where it's like, okay, like for some of us, like I heard about this on so-and-so's podcast like
2 weeks ago.
A while ago. But you know what? It's cool that it got to this place. Like you almost see the natural progression of stuff. Like when you had like Black Lives Matter and other types of things. Like one of my fellow media people's from Ferguson and they were on the ground during it.
Wow.
So, we literally talked to them about it and other types of, we know other people who talk to other people and, different levels of it. So it was like, for some of us, we're just like, yeah, we've heard some of these things that people are just saying that are new right now on this particular channel. And it's not necessarily because of, big media is always evil. I mean, there is some evil big media, but they got their own priorities. But with that and the explosion of social media with podcasting, now it's just here like, you got to hear something else.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to be up in your face. And I think that's the lovely thing about this past, let's say 7 years of podcasting. Social media has helped out podcasting.
Mm-hmm. They go hand in hand.
So it's like, it's literally intersected, and both those things have somebody that's there like, hey, you're from North Carolina. I'm from up here. We got the same goofy interest on something. Let's say like, yo, you like Saga too? Awesome. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You like Stune too? Oh, you do a music show. Let me toss this around your way. Let me toss that around your way. Let me share your podcast link. I'll share your podcast link, And, that's also been that I think's tightened up a lot of our communities on that level.
Yeah.
Let's just be able to do this stuff. So, it's been interesting.
That's such an amazing ride. I can't imagine how it's been for you to kind of see the evolution of it. And it's just exciting because there's so many different opportunities now. So I'm really excited for what you've done and for what you're doing. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show. I just have a couple of other questions as I wrap up.
Okay, sure. Definitely. Thank you for having me down. This has been fun. This has been cool.
What have you changed your mind about recently?
What have I changed my mind about recently? In general?
In general, yeah.
Let's see here. I respect Cardi B more than a whole bunch of hip hop artists in 2017 in terms of her career trajectory.
Okay.
I think she's had one of the most amazing career trajectories from 11 Hip Hop Show, which usually destroys hip hop careers, to where she's at right now. Quite frankly, her singles are better than the Eminem album, which I never thought I would say.
Oh wow. Okay.
The new Eminem album, yeah, it's not good to me. Don't attack me, but it's.
I'm sure. Is there an episode where you've talked about it already?
This week's show, I did talk about it. That I'll be uploading this evening. And I'm also shout out to the folks over at the Where My 40 Acres podcast. Myself, the host there, Phenom, and one of the folks from our podcast group of people, Jack from Movie Trailer MTR Network, talked about the album in depth. So you can check out their show. I think that's the latest episode. And we went in for about an hour and a half about track by track about why we don't like it. So give
All right.
get a list.
And we're recording this on December 21st, so just get the timing right on that. Then look for that episode when it drops. What's the one most misunderstood thing about you?
One most misunderstood thing about me is either people see me and think I don't talk a lot, or they hear me on the podcast and think I talk a lot all the time.
That's great.
It's literally one of those two extremes.
One of the two. That makes a lot of sense. So Mary Nichols, a.k.a. DJ Fusion, where can folks track you down online?
Folks can go to FuseBoxRadio.com, CBOXRadio.com. Our blog site is blackradiosback.com. That's going through a revamp. We should be relaunching in 2018. And pretty much all social media is into FuseBox Radio except Facebook, which the Facebook page is facebook.com/FuseBoxRadioShow. I do put people on my personal page, which is facebook.com/FuseBoxRadio, but please don't be dumb. That's the only thing I ask. We don't got to agree or love each other, but don't do the most. I'm quick with a block button on social media if you're crazy.
Yeah, don't be a troll.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. This was a blast.
No problem. Thank you for having me on Podcast Junkies. Honor and a pleasure. This has been real fun time during this vacation time for me.
Totally. How about that conversation with Mary, old school, in the house? It's just so much fun. It brings a smile to my face when I'm able to reminisce with people, and we have a shared love and a shared passion. And in our case, it's about, music and old school and DJing, and those things bring a smile to my face. And I'm eternally grateful for every single opportunity I get to share my love, my passion for what I do. And that's the reason I have this show, because it's my platform. It's my stage. And I would wish it upon anyone who has a message, just to create that stage, invite those people that you love to have conversations with. Each hour that I spend with my guests brings such a smile to my face, and I never take it for granted. As always, full show notes are available at podcastjunkies.com/159. We've got everything, including the links mentioned, some tweetable quotes from Mary that you can just click on and share with Twitter, timestamped entries and a summary. And we put a lot of love and passion into our show notes. I don't know how many podcasts can say that, but we do. And I'm thankful for the team for putting that work to ensure that it's something that I'm proud of. So, intro and outro music composed by Cedar and Soil, cedarsoil.com. Please don't forget to support our episode sponsors, Podbean at podbean.com/podcastjunkies and podcastmovement.com. Use coupon code podcastjunkies. It's going to be July 23rd through the 26th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Tune in next week for my conversation with Shell Hamilton, another awesome person, awesome human being, met at a podcast conference, host of the incredibly popular Meditation Minis. We have a lot of fun on this one. As I know I sound like a broken record, but these are just great conversations. And you know that I'm always going out of my way to pick people that I get along with that will bring a smile to your face as well. And Shell is definitely falls into that category. If you made it this far, I have a feeling you're hanging out for the retention hashtag. This week, let's go with DJ Fusion, hashtag DJ FUSION in honor of Mary. And you can tag her at FuseBox Radio on Twitter and us at podcast_junkies. Don't forget, we have a newsletter. It's at podcastjunkies.com/8tools, either spelled out or with the number. And if you're already a member of the newsletter posse, podcastjunkies.com/iTunes, and leave us a review on what we now affectionately call Apple Podcasts. Have I told you lately how awesome you are? Yeah, I mean it. Thank you for supporting me and the show. It means a lot. I'll talk to you next week.